Hey, everyone. Let me get my head a little bit bigger. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Lovely's Virtual Book Club. Today, we are going to be discussing Without Children, The Long History of Not Being a Mother by Peggy O'Donnell Heffington. But before we jump into that, I have a few announcements. I am sorry that I am not giving y'all my full attention because I am playing on my phone. I'm not actually playing on my phone. I'm just trying to get to this part that I have to read. Okay. So, like I said, let me make it like this. There we go. Like I said, y'all, we are reading Without Children by Peggy O'Donnell Heffington. And I am trying to make sure that everything is working here. First off, to everyone in the book club, I do apologize with the tardiness of the books. There was a little something got lost in the sauce. And we had the audiobooks, but not the print books. I don't even have a print book. So we are all kind of in the same page. If y'all will forgive me for 1 second while I share the live stream out. Speaking of which, let me tell y'all to do it too. Here. Oh, hang on. This is the part that I have a hard time with. Here we go. And then we're going to get rid of this. There we go. All right. Share the live stream. Hello, viewers at home. Hello, replay viewers. Hello, live stream viewers. I'm so happy that you are here. Let me share this out very quickly with everyone else, and I will give you my full attention in just 1 second, okay? Okay, now that that is done, thank you so much for your patience. Again, I'd like to apologize for the snafus and the mix-ups that have happened with the actual print book. We do have the audio book available. I will turn my copy in if anybody is still waiting on the book. We have two. We have it through Libby and we have it through the Cloud Library. So you should be able to get a copy. As soon as I turn my Libby copy in, there is one available in the Cloud Library. And then when the print books do become available, if you prefer a print book, you'll be able to read it that way. So let's go on and talk about, let's see if I can make my head small or non-existent at all. Let's go ahead and talk about Miss Peggy O'Donnell Heffington. Oh, looky lovely. Lovely made a mistake. We are having some announcements. I totally forgot about that. I do apologize again, y'all. So we are still doing summer reading. We'll be doing that all the way till the 31st of this month. So if you haven't had a chance to turn in any game boards, you're in luck, babes. We still have time to do that. We still are encouraging your children to read. If the locations that you normally go to still have books, they're giving those out. They're giving out any prizes, like the little tchotchkes that we have. I don't think anyone has coupons left anymore. I might be wrong about that, but I definitely know that we're still giving out snacks and tchotchkes. Those are the little gifts. Sometimes I be speaking Yiddish and I don't even know where I learned it from. I know where I learned it from. I'm just playing, y'all. Anywho, summer reading is going until August the 31st, so you still have time to participate, and we would love to see you. Okay, let's see some more announcements. Hold on 1 second, friends. we're having a fun Friday. This Friday at Lamb, we are going to be doing a story time and activity. And as usual, oh, you know what? I was about to tell y'all that we are doing lunches. We won't be doing lunches until September. I think D60 took August off. And so that's why we will not be doing the lunches until D60 or District 60 is, because that's where we get our lunches from to feed the rest of the community. We are so grateful to them, and we're so happy to be able to be of service to y'all. One thing I do want to talk about, another thing involving teen and tweens. If y'all didn't know, we have a teen and tween hangout here at Lamb on Tuesdays from 5 until 6. This Tuesday, August the 26th, we are going to be doing a board game bash. So the board game bash is on. You get to hang out, have snacks, and play your favorite board games from classic to new favorites. Everyone is welcome. All skill levels are welcome. We would love to have you. Let me just double check and make sure I am not missing any other announcements that I'm supposed to be making. We are going to be having a pop-up library in September at the Lake Minnequaw apartment complex. I believe it's September the 26th. Let me see if this thing that I'm on will let me go that far ahead. Oh, it will, y'all. Let's see what we got going on. I'm so happy. Let's see. Yes, it is the grand opening. It is the pop-up library on September the 26th from 3 to 6 at the Lake Minnequaw Apartments. There's going to be prizes and snacks and all kind of fun things. So September the 26th at 5 o'clock at the Lake Minnequaw Apartments. Can y'all even see my head? Y'all just looking at this thing that says announcements. Here I am. So we would love to have you guys there as well. That's just one of the things that we do to have outreach to the community. So if you can't come to the library, we will do our best to come to you. So again, that pop-up library is going to be at the Lake Minnequaw Apartments, September the 26th. At 5 p.m. There's going to be snow cones and all kind of fun prizes and giveaways, and you get to register for a library card. And who doesn't want that? All right, let's go to the author bio. So this is Peggy O'Donnell Heffington. She's the lady who wrote this book. Let me make this full screen so I can actually see it a little bit better too. There we go. Peggy O'Donnell Heffington is an instructional professor of history at the University of Chicago and teaches subjects ranging from feminism to human rights. Her writing can be found in Jezebel, the Los Angeles Review of Books, the Boston Globe, and elsewhere. She received her PhD in history from the University of California at Berkeley. I believe she is also married. I know she's a pug mom. She got 2 pugs, y'all. I forget them dogs' names, but she did put it in her bio. I edited it, and I edited them out. I'm so sorry, pug babies. All right, so just a brief synopsis of this book. It came out in 2023, so it hasn't had a lot of chance to be submitted for awards, I would say, because it's a wonderful book. She did very, very well. I really enjoyed the deep dive in history. We'll get into that in a minute because I got my notes as usual. But anyway, the brief synopsis of this book is: a historian explores the complicated relationships between womanhood and motherhood in this timely, refreshingly open-hearted study of the choices women make and the cards they are dealt. And that is a quote from Ada Calhoun. She's the author of Why We Can't Sleep. Also, I read the audio version. Let me go back so I can get the audio version person's name. Hold on. Her name is, I cannot see my screen. 1 second, y'all. Let's get rid of that so I can actually see. Narrated by Marguerite Gavin. So Marguerite Gavin is the audiobook narrator, and that is how I was able to enjoy this book. Okay, let's get the screen back big again. Okay, so let me just read a brief synopsis. Then we're kind of going to just go and do an overview of the book and point out a few of the parts that I really enjoyed and why. In an era of falling births, it is often said that millennials invented the idea of not having kids. But history is full of women without children, some who choose childless lives, others who wanted children but never had them, and still others, the vast majority, then and now, who fell somewhere in between. Modern women, considering how and if children fit into their lives, are products of their political, ecological, and cultural moment. But history also tells them that they are not alone. Drawing on deep research and her own experience as a woman without children, historian Peggy O'Donnell, I wonder why they did it this way, because she definitely is Peggy O'Donnell Heffington. Peggy, maybe O'Donnell's her maiden name. Okay. Peggy O'Donnell shows that many of the reason women are not having children today are ones they share with women in the past. A lack of support, their jobs or finances, environmental concerns, infertility, and the desire to live different kinds of lives. Understanding this history, how normal it has always been to not have children, and how hard society has worked to make it seem abnormal is key. She writes, to rebuilding kinship between mothers and non-mothers, and to building a better world for us all. So that's the basic synopsis of this book. Let's move ahead. Okay, so some of the themes, let me make this a little bit small. And let's do this. Boom. Now see, lovely. Now I can't see myself. There we go. Okay, so some of the themes in the book are a historical prevalence and destigmatization of childlessness, structural and systematic barriers, the myth of individual choice. That theme really goes into, while we may think we have individual choices, sometimes the environment or the politics or our society has other plans for us. Community and family socialism versus the nuclear family, which in this book, Miss O'Donnell says that the nuclear family is fairly recent and quite abnormal from traditional societies. Empathy and kinship across parenting status, and systemic solutions over moralizing. So those are some of the themes of the book. We'll try to touch on as many of those as possible in the time that we have left with one another. Pardon me, y'all. Let me try to... Oh, my goodness, y'all. I'm so sorry. My computer is doing... There we go. My computer's doing fun things, and I didn't mean to get y'all all the way to the end of the screen. Anywho, let's jump into the discussion question / discussion of the book. Okay, so first off, let me move this over here. Here are all my wonderful notes. Let's just really jump into the book. I enjoyed this book. I think that because she is a historian, she presented this book in ways that I was not prepared for. Like, for instance, when she is, I think it's in chapter 2, where she is talking about the different types of parenting and how different societies do it. I was not prepared for how thorough she was going to be with that. I was very pleasantly surprised. Let me see if I can find it in my notes here. At how she really dove into how Black women or Black communities have approached parenthood and mothering. She talks about how Native American folks have done it in the past too. Let's see. Here we are. Yes, okay. This is kind of where I want to be. But what I want to talk about too is, in the very beginning of the book, she talks about how as long as there have been mothers, there have been women who were not mothers. And she kind of goes into a lot of the contraceptions that people would use. Like, she talks about a concoction that the ancient Egyptians would use. They would rub a flower that was known as a spermicide with crocodile dung and put it on places we will not talk about on this show, because this is a family channel, or I'm trying to be family oriented and think about what people might be hearing. But anyway, she did that. They talked about how Roman soldiers would use the bladders and the intestines of the animals that they were carrying, or the bladders that they would carry water in, how they would use that as one of the first known condoms to prevent getting someone pregnant. Everything from using lemons and flowers, things that were known to prevent pregnancy. So her point in the point she was trying to make in all of this is that there has been a long history of women who just did not have children for various reasons, and how people have, since time immemorial, there we go, you got to add that extra N or M, people have tried to prevent pregnancies. I think the point of that was so that people would understand that it's not abnormal. I think up until recently, when women started being vocal about either not having the desire to be mothers and not wanting children, that's, I would say in the early part of the 20th century is when people started thinking it was odd or weird, when really it's been that way for quite some time. Now, one of the things that she talks about, it is in chapter 2, where she's talking about colonial and indigenous community care. She talks about how communal child rearing, where children were shared among households, often informally adopted, and how in a lot of Black communities, be it in the Black American communities, be they enslaved or shortly after enslavement. So she's talking about Reconstruction era time all the way through Jim Crow, how non-biological caretakers protected and raised children through community resilience. And the reason why she focuses on that is because it talks about and it illustrates how non-biological caregiving was historically central to community life, creating spaces where children were nurtured and women found meaningful roles beyond maternity. The loss of such communal structures over time in favor of the isolated nuclear family has deep implications for how motherhood and caregiving are socially constructed today. So basically what she was saying is a lot of these communities viewed childhood as a group effort. I know that a lot of times people often hear it takes a village to raise a child, but a lot of people have not experienced that. And I believe that my generation, so I'm Gen X, I think as far as Black Americans or African Americans are concerned, I think that I'm probably one of I think Gen X might have been the last generation, right on the tail end, where how she's talking about communal caregiving was very prominent. I grew up, as y'all know, I was born in Denver. Some of y'all don't know. Hi, welcome or welcome back. But people who've been here a long time know I love talking about how I was raised, how I was brought up. Y'all know I was born in Denver. 5 Points neighborhood, stand up. And how in my neighborhood, everybody knew everyone. And if it was an adult person speaking to you and they weren't telling you to do something crazy or oddball, you had to respect them because everyone knew everyone. And if let's say for instance that little Lovely was throwing Coke bottles and breaking them behind the convenience store, and by the time she got home, the neighbor, Miss Crowder, had called up her mommy and said, your baby's over here breaking bottles. And I got in trouble because Miss Carter knew I wasn't supposed to be doing that. So she told my mom. By the time I got home, I had the broom, I had the little dustpan, I had to go clean it up because somebody told on me. And Miss Carter, she was German. She wasn't even a Black German lady. She was a white German lady living in our neighborhood, but she was respected in that neighborhood. We adopted her as one of our own. And if she told me I wasn't supposed to do something, then I had to listen to her because she, even though I never saw any of her children, she was looking out for us. And I might be wrong, but I don't think I am. I don't think that that's happening as much anymore. Part of the reason that that's not happening as much anymore is because of different societal reasons and people being broken up and spread across the country. And you can't necessarily instill trust in people that you don't actually know. So that idea of community was broken because of so many other variables. But I do remember it, and I know that that is how a lot of people who maybe were not mothers, or maybe their children were in other places, they were allowed to be a part of the community because they were responsible for us. She also talks about, and forgive me, y'all, I do not remember the tribe's name. I want to say it was the Penobscot, but I'm probably saying that wrong. I'm so sorry, cousins. I didn't mean to mess y'all's name up. I do apologize for that. But she talks about how they were, after being put on a reservation and fighting as much as they had, that a lot of the women there decided that they just did not want to have children. And there's a woman that is quoted saying, "We do not wish to increase. In fact, we want to decrease. We are sad. We have gone through so much, and this is not a time to bring children into the world." And so she's saying all that again because she's trying to let people know that maybe not having children is not as abnormal as we believe today. There have been always instances in community and communal living, be it for whatever is going on, like, turmoil, upheaval, or whatever, where some people just did not have children. It did not mean that you were not responsible for children. For instance, that's how I got my daughter. I never had planned on having children at all, but I was always involved with my nieces and nephews and some neighborhood children. I was always looking out for them. And so that's how I ended up adopting my daughter. She talks about that a lot in here with kinship care and informal adoption. When my parents were no longer able to take care of their youngest grandchild, they gave her to me. And I said, sure, I will take her. And then she came up here, and now I have a daughter with no labor. Hey, I mean, there's some labor involved, but not pushing the baby out kind of labor. So, anywho, and because I was one of those non-mother caregivers, I had been involved in all of my nieces and nephews' lives since they were born. And so it wasn't like she was being given to a stranger or anything, but this is just one of those ideas of communal care that she really emphasized. I was shocked, y'all. I did not expect that. There are a lot of I was about to say unexpected surprises, but aren't surprises unexpected? Never mind. So she goes on as well. The more case studies where she's talking about specific people like John Hancock. Yes, that Hancock with his big Hancock on the bottom of the Declaration of Independence. He was raised by his childless aunt, who functioned as his mother, showing maternal roles beyond biology. So John Hancock was raised by Lydia Hancock. I didn't know that. I had no idea. Let's see what else. There was something else in here. She's talking about why these types of stories matter. And she is saying that these stories matter because we need to broaden the idea of mothers. So she's saying that these stories show that motherhood historically it's extended beyond biology. Care was provided by aunts, childless women, neighbors, and other community members. So very much like I was talking about in our, I'm going to say hamlet. I like that word. In our little African-American hamlet. It did not matter if they were an adult, like I said, and they were not telling you to do anything nefarious. You had to listen to them like they were your parents. And those days, I'm pretty much sure, are gone. There might be pockets of places where that is still going on. I hope so. Somebody let me know. Tell me in the comment section. Or, replay viewers, if you know of some places like that, go on and put the comment in here so I can see. Speaking of which, hey, if you like what I am doing, please share this live stream. Remember to share this out. Let everybody come in and be a part of the fun and the discussion. We would love to have you. I'd love to hear from you. And also remember to like the page. That lets the algorithm know that you like what I am doing. Now, let me see. I was looking for something in here. Hold on one second, friends. I do not see what I am looking. Oh, I know what I was looking for. I was looking to see if there was any comments on that. I do not see any. If y'all have any questions or comments, please put them in the bottom or write them down. I will see them. I'm streaming across multiple platforms, but I will see all of your comments if you have any. So just jot them down, please, and thank you. Let me get back to here. Okay, so the other thing that she's talking about why these types of stories matter is underscoring communal structures. Unlike today's emphasis on the nuclear families, earlier societies often practiced more collective model of caregiving rooted in kinship, reciprocity, and shared responsibility. Again, we were talking about that. So she also discusses in this book how in the 30s and 40s, shortly after World War II, when women were working outside of the home more, how society kind of changed a little bit because they assumed that all women wanted to be mothers. And if a woman got pregnant, or even if she got married, she would often get fired. So you would see teachers or women who are working in banks or whatever, if they got pregnant or married, they would get fired. And so the institutions thought they were reassuring women and saying, yeah, you can go and have your babies and whatnot. But what really happened is it made some women not want to have kids. And so they didn't, because they didn't want to lose their job or their career, because some people were working in a bank and maybe that was just a job for them, but other people were teachers and that was their career, and they didn't want to lose their career just because they got married or had children. So some women chose not to. A lot of women just hid it. And then also too, because especially during the Great Depression, if someone had a government job, let's say a woman had a government job and a man had a government job, two government employees could not marry and work with one another. And part of the ideas and the mores of that time were how dare, when there's so many people who were struggling just to get by and make ends meet, how dare two people take money from the government at that government job when one of them, the lady, could just go home and depend on her husband. And so because of the social structure of that time, people, the society thought, oh, every woman wants to have children, so we'll help her. If you get married or you get pregnant, you are getting fired. Good day. And it kind of backfired on them because that's not what happened. Let's go on and talk a little bit more about why some of these other, again, about child. This book definitely turned out to be something that I did not think it was going to be. It was talking about so much how childless people still participate in care networks, how different policies ended up affecting the birth rate of children. Like, for instance, Heffington calls for a redefinition of family and policy, one that matches how people actually live and care for one another. So, oh wait, this is a little bit, I'm jumping ahead of myself. I'm sorry, y'all. I want to go back a little bit so we could talk about structural and systemic barriers to children. Well, I will say this because we are running a little bit close on time. I don't want to go over, but one of them is how she talks, I hit on this a little bit, how she talks about the myth of individual choice. And she says the author, as she says in my notes, the author critiques the narrative that positions non-motherhood as a decision born of preference or ambition. Instead, most women's experiences are constrained by external circumstances, economic, social, or institutional. This highlights the solution that lie in improving social support and not stigmatizing individuals. Like, for instance, she's talking about how in other countries, like in France or anywhere in the UK, where they noticed a decline in birth rate. And so, in order to get that birth rate back up, they supported everybody. So, like, they'll have 18 months of parental leave or maternity leave, and men in Canada have that long too. That's long enough for a baby to learn to start walking and jibber jabbering a little bit. Also, there's the child credit, like the tax credit that you get. Also, a lot of these other folks were supported by universal income, universal basic income. Again, very long maternal and paternal leaves with the guarantee of their job being waiting for them when they get back. What else? Let me see if I can find it in my notes. Anywho, I don't see it off the top of my head, but she's very much talking about how, as a society, if we want women to bear more children, we need to support them in doing so. We can't just say, here, bear some children, and we don't care how you feed them. We don't care if little Johnny knows how to read, or if he can add, if Johnny has 5 apples. We have to support the structures and the things that we say that we care about. Otherwise, women are not going to have children because they don't feel supported and comforted enough to do so. And so I really thought that was just fascinating. Super, super fascinating. Let me see. Let me check. Let's see what else I'm supposed to be telling y'all to do. Please like the page. Again, that lets the algorithm know that you like what I'm doing. If you love what I'm doing, please let the algorithm know. Also, sign up for my newsletter so that you can get all the discussion questions ahead of time. And you can join in the fun and whatnot as well. But again, like the page so the algorithm will spread this out to more people. I'm sorry, y'all. Let me push on the right thing. Pardon me. There we go. Okay. I have to hit this. I don't have a mouse. And if I don't hit this keypad just right, different things pop up that y'all can't even see. All right, let me see. Let's see. Let me check to see if there are any comments. I don't see any. I just want to double check. Again, if you are a replay viewer, hello from I'd be the past. Hello from the past. Go ahead. You can still ask questions. Facebook is doing something new where they delete the videos after 30 days off of the platform, but I can access this on YouTube as well. And as long as you get your questions in before 30 days, before they delete the video, I'll see it and we can still chat about it. So, okay, that is gone. All right. Let me check one more thing because there's a couple of other things that I wanted to focus on. I just was basically focusing on some of my favorite parts of the book. I thought it was just way better than what I was expecting. I really don't know what I was expecting. I've never read a book by her because this is her first book, and I was just really surprised, or pleasantly surprised, I should say. Oh, and here we go. One of the main points that I liked about this book is systemic solutions over moralizing. Heffington calls for reimagining what fulfillment, family, and contribution look like beyond traditional motherhood norms. Instead of moralizing reproduction, she advocates for policy level changes like robust parental support, affordable childcare, and workplace flexibility that empower individual autonomy and collective well-being. And yes, if we are wanting people to have more babies, then we have to put the things in places that will help them have more babies. And it does literally take a village. Children are really important, and their education is important. Their health is important. You need a lot of things in place, and it is expensive to do all that. And so, places like the library, that's where we kind of come in and step in. As y'all are aware, at the beginning of the announcements, I was talking about how we have Fun Friday and how we have different activities. That's to socialize your children and also to get them out in the community so that they can start learning how to act in group settings. We cannot have child-free places or expect children not to act like children if we haven't given them an opportunity to learn how to interact with other people. So that's why places like the library and other third spaces are very important. For those of y'all who might not have heard that term, a third space is a place where everyone can meet. There is a low barrier of entry as far as it's free. It's either low cost or free. There is no stigma for people who want to come in and out of it. And it's community based, like a library or a community center or a church or any other religious institution like a synagogue or a temple, things like that. And so I really liked how she was talking about how we have to basically be the change we want to see, and we have to support those things. So even though the book says without children, that's not really the topic. The book is talking about how we have to ask, what kind of society do we want? And if we want a society that supports people who have children, we need to create that society. I think that's what we'll end on at the end. Let me see. I might read that. Hold on. Let me see if I can't find it. One second, friends. Let me flip just a little bit, and then we'll get to, I'll double check a few more things. I'm looking for, one of the chapter, it was in chapter 4. And let me pull up my audio book real quick so I can make sure that I have the right name of the chapter. Again, y'all, I do apologize about the snafu with the print books, but we will not have that problem with our next book coming up because we already have plenty of copies. Let me turn it down so I don't accidentally hit the boom. And let me get the title of the chapter. It's just chapter 5, I think. Because we can't. So let me just, because we can't. So Heffington dives into the emotional and practical realities of involuntarily childless, infertility, reproductive limits, and the psychological toll of trying and not being able to conceive. She even taps on China's one-child rule from the 70s and 80s. I don't know if they're still doing that or not. I could be, so I'm not going to say if they're still doing it or not, but she talks about that. Anywho, she says, though less detailed in summaries, this chapter is likely to explore the historical and contemporary stories of women who faced infertilities and the pressures that come with it. So sometimes women are childless because they tried and they just could not have them themselves. And so there was another one where she talks about people like Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Helen Gurley Brown, and how there was like environmental and ethical concerns that drove many women to forego motherhood. There's an ecologist, Stephanie Mills, and how she had anxieties about climate change and overpopulation and was uncertain if she wanted to bring a baby into that world. So that's another reason why somebody might not have children. A lot of this was where I was like, because when I was reading that, I was like, ooh, that sounds like eugenics, woo. And then of the chapter, and then it touched on how motivations like, because you're trying to protect the environment, intersect with problematic histories like eugenics. In that particular, that's chapter 4, they talk about how women started to feel like some of these environmental reasons for not having children looked like the patriarchy controlling their bodies, and they didn't like that. And to be quite honest, it was only certain women that they were looking at, talking about, should you really have those children? And they always seem to think that impoverished women are irresponsible, and that they are the ones that are having too many children. And that's not always the case, nor is it fair to assume that these women are immoral, lazy, and stupid, because they're not. They're just poor. And a lot of the times they have a different understanding of child rearing that is more communal and more supportive. which again, we were talking about negating the uh, nuclear family, and that how new that is. That's not something that everybody grew up with. That is not as old as a more communal type of raising children that we discussed with different Native American nations and Black folks and folks around the world. So I do believe that is where we might wrap it up. Let me see if there's anything else I want to touch on. I don't think so. Hold on one second. I think, yes, we talked about communal parenting practices in early American and indigenous communities. I really wish I could remember the name of that Native American tribe. I cannot, or nation, excuse me, y'all. But you know what? Let's see. There is something where we're talking about that a little bit. She was talking about before formal adoptions existed in the 19th century, taking in a relative's neighbor or child, sometimes unwritten but socially accepted, was a normal act of kinship care. So again, we talked about kinship care and kinship adoption, which is how I got my daughter. Let's do a little bit again, talking about African American community resilience through non-biological caregiving. I know so many people older than me, they're like on the older end of Gen X, who were adopted by groups of people. They were in a Black neighborhood. Everybody was Black, so they just scooped a baby up who needed help. In fact, I have a cousin named Jerry who his family had a lot of children. It was during he's not that old. I was about to say the Great Depression. I'm sorry, Jerry. He's still alive. He's not that old. But his parents could not afford to keep him. And so they asked my paternal side of the family, hey, would you guys like a child? And they said yes. Jerry grew up knowing who his biological family was and who his adopted family was. And he used to joke that he had to go to the next town over to date people because he was related to everybody in Hawkins. That's Hawkins, Texas. Anyway, so again, that just emphasizes how different communities view childhood and raising children and whatnot. Let's see. I think, yes. Okay, so yeah, she just touches on again within Black American communities, particularly during eras of slavery, segregation, and systemic oppression. Women who could not or did not have biological children often cared for children whose parents were separated from them, incarcerated, or passed away. This type of caregiving was just not familial affection, it was a vital element of communal survival and resistance, ensuring children grew up safely with a network of trust and support. Again, she emphasizes that there needs to be trust and support for this to actually work. And she says these stories matter because we're broadening the idea of mother. It helps us to understand communal structures and a more collective model for caregiving and reframing childlessness. So non-motherhood was not necessarily a stigma or anything like that. It was woven into communal caregiving and systems that valued contribution outside of biological reproduction. One of the things too that a lot of people who had critiques of this book, a lot of childless people who have critiques of that book, were they took some umbrage with the communal caregiving. And for somebody who came from a communal caregiving society, I find that odd because even though it was an expectation, you weren't obligated to do it. Matter of fact, you were told, if you don't really want that kid, don't take them. And so I think from my perspective, they're outsiders kind of looking in. I could see why they would be like, ooh, why is somebody expecting me to be a mother just because I'm a woman? And that's not necessarily how it went. It wasn't just the women who were doing the communal care. There would be men who would, give groups of children rides to school. If there was a family and they did not have a paternal figure, then maybe a neighbor or a close relative would step in and be that paternal figure. So I think that for people who were not able to finish the book because that was rubbing them the wrong way, there needs to be more of a examination of what these societies were truly doing. And I think it's kind of hard to look at another society and not compare it to yours. So it wasn't just the women who were doing mothering. It was everybody. Everybody was responsible for the children. And we also knew which adults were not responsible because we were told, don't listen to, I don't want to say, don't listen to so-and-so. They do drugs. They would say the specific drug. I'm trying to be nice and not call anybody names. But the children in the neighborhood knew who the trustworthy adults were and which ones were not. And nobody listened to the untrustworthy adults. That's why they're untrustworthy, because everybody knew not to pay attention to you. Anywho, I thought it was a very, very good book. I hope that if you have not had a chance to read the book, well, none of us have had a chance to hold the book in our hand because they're still in processing somewhere, but that's okay. We have the audio book. I am actually here. Watch this, y'all. Watch this. Let's do this right now. We finna return this, and you can have this book now. You guys can have the book. I'm returning it. I'm getting my little flowers from what do you call it, Libby? When you return the book, it gives you flowers. So let's give it back. I'm trying to give it back anyway. I'll do that. I'm going to get over here and do that in a minute. But you should be able to get that book from Libby. So I've just given y'all a whole nother book. So let's move on to the next slide. Let me put my head right here. Whoop. Oh, let me get rid of these banners. All right. So our next book is going to be Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas. We're reading that book for Hispanic Heritage Month. Happy Hispanic Heritage Month, y'all. That book is going to be the next book club is going to be on September 18th. This is going to be a wonderful book. It's got Santa Muerte back there, and we got some brujeria going on in this book. I am excited to read this book. I've heard so much about it. I cannot wait to dive into it with y'all. Pardon me. Excuse me. I cannot wait to dive into that book with y'all. Please feel free to sign up for the newsletter so that I can send out the discussion questions to you. You can get them early. We can chop it up on the Facebook page in between now and when our next book club is. I appreciate you being here. Thank you live stream viewers. Thank you replay viewers. You can actually get this. Can you see? The green screen is doing some fun stuff. You can actually, we have plenty copies of this book right now in the print form. And we also have e-audio books and e-books as well. So you shouldn't have any problems getting this book at all. Please let me know if you do. I'll be more than happy to assist you with that. And if I am unavailable, anybody at PCCLD would also be more than happy to help you get that book. I appreciate y'all for being here, and I will see you next month, September the 18th at 4 p.m. so we can talk about Cemetery Boys. Until then, I'll see you later. Bye.